Everyone, welcome back to Not Another Whiskey Podcast. We have a lovely lineup for you today, and if you're looking for holy grail whiskies that can be sit by gods, wearing +4s, whilst dangling grapes from above and munching them away, this is definitely not the place for you. However, it might be after a few drams. I am your co-host, it's Daz Haldane here.
And it's me, Mitch. Welcome, guys. If you're new around here, then Daz and I have got a combined 30 years of whiskey ambassador experience. We also enjoy a wee whiskey now and again. And this week's episode, we're going to be chatting about the best whiskey bars and best bars around the world and kind of how to drink in them. Yes, that's right. We're going to be teaching you how to drink in a bar again because everyone has been away from them for so long.
Mate, that's right. We have, well, you've got to listen to us as usual, but for the first time ever, we've got a really, really special guest who's going to join us. So rather than just listening to Mitch and I leather each other with shit chat, you also have somebody else who's going to add some more shit chat to that, and more on that as we go.
Yeah, guys, so stay tuned for the usual Diamond Whiskey banter chat that you've come to expect from us from the last 3 episodes. If you haven't listened to our first episodes, then what are you doing here? Go back and check them out because there's some podcasting gold in there. Podcasting, is podcasting a word, Daz? I don't even know.
I think it is podcasting. Yeah.
It is now. All right, so big news for this week. We have a sponsor for the show now.
Mitch, that's right. And it's a great honour to announce, a huge honour in fact, that the talented fiddler Fanny McSporran and her band of kilted futtrits have sponsored this week's episode. So here is a word from our very own Fanny.
Bit like whiskey-loving loons and quines, it's Fanny McSporran here. I am so proud to be sponsoring Nay Another Whiskey Podcast. I've been busy practicing on my fiddle this week with my band, the Kilted Futtrits. We love to get yous on a dance flair at any celebration, especially a wedding. The Futtrits always get blutered on a whiskey and here going a groomsman, or if it's a healing wedding, the sheep dinna mind a wee go. So put your dancing shoes on and let me and my Futtrits take you on a Scottish musical adventure. We are brand new CD, including classic covers like Fitz Love Got a D with It, I Did It My Way, Fit Like a Virgin, Dinna Stop Me Noo, and that classic Abody Loves a Ginger Minge. So gang over to the website and give us a listen at www.fannyfiddler.com.
Right, Daz. Amazing to see Fanny as our sponsor. Such a great band, and it's amazing to see that they don't really adhere to any of those Scottish stereotypes, right?
Yeah, that's right, man. I've actually just spent an hour in the car and I was listening away. It was lovely. The track "Roddy Furs Your Football Boots" is probably one of my favourites.
Oh, classic, mate. Classic. Love that one. All right, so listen, let's get into this week's episode. Introduced our first ever guest on the show. This guy has been known to make a few cocktails in his time. He's worked the occasional cocktail bar and he's actually judged a load of international cocktail competitions. He's a legend in his own mind. He's so hairy that when he came out, the doctor had to check that he wasn't an ape. We like to call him Firstborn, but he also goes by the name of Barrie Wilson. Incredible drinks entrepreneur who owns 2 companies, Scotch and Lemon, and his new venture, drinksdrop.com. Now, Baz, you can also add to your impressive resume that you're the first ever guest on Not Another Whiskey Podcast. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much. It's so honored, and what a lovely, lovely intro. Thanks, Mitch, and thank you, Daryl.
You are very welcome, Baz. It's so lovely to see you again and hear your lovely voice. To counteract all of those lovely things that Mitch has said to you, about you and your history and your career and things. Never forget where you're from, Barrie. You're from Dunfermline.
Absolutely. And on that point, you guys would be nothing without me. Just remember that. Absolutely nothing. Daryl, you'd still be working in Asda.
Yeah.
And Mitch,
annoyingly, you got a job in Asda. Remember, I got turned down 3 times. I never actually got the job. And I'm not bitter at all.
So to explain to everyone, we obviously, the three of us go back quite a long way. I think, well, we all knew each other in the bar sort of game back in Edinburgh, and then we actually worked together in Diageo. Baz was the first one to get into Diageo, and then Daz and I followed. Sorry, I'm going to call you Barrie, not Baz, because then it'll be Baz and Daz, and people will get confused as to who we're talking about here. So Barrie
I was the original Baz, and then Daryl then changed his name to Daz, just to annoy me, really, which it did. So congratulations.
Yeah, it was quite funny, wasn't it? Because when people would talk about us as a plural, as a couple, perhaps, or whatever, they would call us the Azes.
Did they?
I think before we get into this, let's kind of define what we regard as a great bar. So Baz, I know with your company, you've been doing a lot of consultancy work with bars. So I think it's good to. I'm going to pass this over to you first. What do you think makes a great bar?
Well, there are many, many great bars around this world, and I think all of us, we've been lucky enough to sort of travel around the world and try these bars out and even sort of help them along the way. And for me, a great bar has to have a great bartender. It sounds a bit simple, but having that host, having that bartender who's welcoming, they don't have an ego, and they make you a drink that you like, and it's a drink that's for you and not just for them to show off. Because to be honest, there's quite a lot of bars right now that are just making drinks to show off to their peers. I like the simplicity of going into a bar. It's beautiful decor, a lovely smell behind the bar, and a cracking drink. And it's a simple recipe, but so many people are missing the mark just now. For me, that's a great bar. And whether it's the Silver Birch in Cowdenbeath or Zuma in Dubai, I think they both tick those boxes for me. So it doesn't have to be, all singing, all dancing and fancy. You've got to get dressed up to go into. A great bar can be anytime, any place.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the eye opener for me, definitely within the trade, was, if we go back to our bartending days when we were all making sets on the beaches and cosmopolitans back in Edinburgh, and it was all that kind of bling. You had like Opal Lounge kicking off, and it was all that really kind of expensive interiors to these places. And then you had someone, like Mike and Jason come along and open Bramble. Was, and Stuart McCluskey as well with Bon Vivant, just those places that didn't focus on how it all looked, but it was all about the experience when you went in and the service that you're getting to
absolutely. And the Villager as well, Kyle's and the Villager. I think that was really sort of groundbreaking at the time as well, about that. Just, it was a sort of neighborhood bar that done really, really good drinks. And, me and Daryl worked together in Rick's. I think you were at Brown's at the time, weren't you, Mitch? And I know from behind it, I was thinking about this as well. We rarely sold any whiskey. It was all cocktails. It was and I remember in Brown's, it was like a raspberry daiquiri you guys done in there. It was flying out. We were Cosmos and Flirtinis. And I think, that was a sort of early 2000s, late 90s. But now it's changed so much. People will, there's far more accessibility. People know more about spirits. They know more about what they want to drink. So it's definitely changed since we've been behind the bar.
Yeah, I'd say, I think the biggest thing is the back bar as well, right? You look at back bars now, and brown liquid is like front and center, where in our days it was always vodkas and gins, right? It was always the white stuff.
Yeah, I remember my dad. I grew up in a pub in Cowdenbeath, and it was the Silver Birch, and it was an institution. And I'd say, quite a lot of people did drink whiskey there, but there's only sort of 3-4 options of whiskey. Couple of vodkas, one gin, Mirage and Taboo. There was always Mirage and Taboo. Like no one, you never sell any. But there was always the 2 bottles. Malibu, yeah, that bottle was open on the back bar, full of sugar. But but now you just go into any pub, even if you go into the Silver Birch now, please don't, and you will see they will have a bigger variety of whiskey. And even it's something we were responsible for, but we done I don't know if you remember the malt splits. We went round pretty much every single bar and hotel in Scotland and offered them the flavor map. You know, extending your range of single malts to give customers more choice, and that things like that. You guys being as brand ambassadors actually helped the choice in bars. So you've actually achieved something in your life, guys. Well done.
Thanks, Barrie.
Was that patronizing enough?
Not at all. No. That feels really good. I'm going to quote you on that. I think that's the thing. You've mentioned Bramble. You talk about range. I think that's the thing we haven't talked about it's what's on that bar. What is the range of things? You're then moving from a bar that or a restaurant or whatever that is a generalist into a specialist type of venue. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think certainly this conversation, where we're going to go here, probably will lead to is as you go around the world, the best Scotch bars, bizarrely, are not in Scotland, in my opinion. Some of the best pubs and bars I've been to that are there to hero everything that is great about Scottish whiskey have been in other countries. They've been in Japan and Taiwan, Singapore. Go out to LA, Mitch, to 7 Grand and places like that. Very few places in Scotland are delivering a range, a service, and an environment to enjoy whiskey like some of these guys are.
That's a good little segue there, Daz. So, let's talk about our top bars around the world. If you'd have to, I don't know, say top 5, right? Top 5 bars that you'd want to go to. Barrie, I'll start with you.
Oh, I'll give you one just now. I mentioned it before, but Zuma in Dubai. Now, it's not, if you've been to Zuma in London, it's completely different. It's same company, but it's just what I was saying. You walk in and the atmosphere just completely hits you. It's just magnificent. The music's always on point, lighting, beautiful people. The food's exceptional, and they've got a guy, Jimmy Barrett, originally from the south of France, and he's been based over there for years now. And it's the welcome you get from all these guys, and it's set up like a kitchen. He's at the back just shouting out orders behind this massive block of ice. All the bartenders are completely on point, and it's just a theatre, and the drinks they create. There's nothing too complicated, but they always do just this little bit extra just to make it class, whether it's a little Zuma stamp on their ice block or serving a gin and tonic in a bag. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And for me, that's always it's definitely in the top 5 for me always. So I'll start with that one.
Yeah, that's a great venue. I've been before, Baz, and I love that. And whiskey's very much front and center of what they're doing. If you come into the UK and you look at the top 10 selling cocktails in bars, whiskey's not in there at all. No. Go out there to places like Zuma, their top selling cocktails, a good few of those will be whiskey drinks, which is brilliant. And these guys, they embrace it, they protect the integrity of the whiskeys, but they celebrate the flavors and they deliver them in beautiful ways. And it is like, it's beautiful. These drinks are like paintings a lot of the time, and
they are.
Yeah,
it's great for it, which is now, in the digital world is what makes a successful bar really is showcasing what you can do digitally, so it's got to look beautiful. And I remember in Zuma, I think it was with the Macallan, a serve they'd done. It was an old stave from a Macallan castle. No idea how they got hold of that, because I know
sent them.
Right. There we go.
I literally posted them over. I posted them 10 staves.
I can't believe you must have got someone to help you. But again, they just with a blowtorch burn the stave, so already you're like, what's going on here? And they're just burning the stave. You smell that sort of toasted sherry coming off the stave. Then place the glass over the top, capture the smoke, and then pour the whiskey in. So it's just little bits like that. You're like, it got me wanting to try a whiskey. It got the whole room interested, or at least they noticed it. So it's just, that's why they, I think, sell more whiskey, because they're making it exciting to a new customer base.
What about you, Daz?
Oh, well, it's a hard one. I think with the mixed drinks and stuff, it depends what you're looking for. Or you could go classic, just a great place to sit, have a wee beer and have a wee whiskey that can still be delivered in a really nice way. I'm going to choose 2. The first one I'm going to choose that I was in last week was the Highlander Inn up in the middle of Speyside. what I love about that place is it's run by Tatsuya-san, a Japanese guy who has another couple of bars back in Japan, whiskey bars. And I love it because he's embraced everything that's great about Scotland, but he's also got a little bit of that international feel to it as well. You know, his experience of service in Japan and the way that things can be done is really evident in a place like the Highlander Inn. And I just love that place. It almost feels like my little safe place. My heart rate just drops about 10 beats per minute. And I just sort of chill when I'm in there. It's so, so good. Every time I go back, I love it. And they do independent bottlings. They do their own bottlings and stuff, which they fleece me every time. Every time I'm in there, oh, we've got a new bottling, Daz. Did you know we've got one? I'm like, oh, I have to get one now. So I bought one last week and it's almost finished, actually. It was great. So Highlander Inn definitely in Scotland would be one of my favourite places to go for a great Scotch. One of my favourite places abroad is if you go to Bar Butler in Hong Kong, in TST in Hong Kong. That is a great place. It's actually run by 2 Japanese bartenders, but what they do is they deliver great drinks all the time. You can get a great dram neat, you can get cask strength, whatever you want. You know, you can get these unicorn whiskies, but you can also get a banging old fashioned or a great whiskey sour made by these incredibly brilliant Japanese bartenders. So Bar Butler in Hong Kong is definitely one of my favorite places. Every time I go to Hong Kong, that's usually the first stop for me. Mitch, you must have, especially living in America, seeing this great cocktail scene and things like that, you must have been to some pretty special places over there. What's your favorite?
I was kind of thinking about this, and I have got quite a few from the US. You've already mentioned one of them, 7 Grand in LA, definitely comes into it, and that was actually the first place that I did a whiskey tasting in the US as well. So bit of a special place in my heart with that bar. But you know, also the bartenders really know their stuff there. I mean, you go in, they've just got a wall of whiskey. I think it's around about 700-800 bottles of whiskey behind the bar, and it's just whiskey everywhere, you know. And those guys are really passionate about it. They've got the little jackalope room through the back that's like a secret room. You have to do like a secret knock to get in, and it's a tiny little mini bar through the back there that you can have a great experience. I was lucky enough to go to Hawaii a few times, and there was a place called Vintage Cave, and it was unbelievable. It was actually in like a shopping mall, but it was in the car park of a shopping mall. So you drove into the car park, and then you just see this brick wall, and it's just got this tiny sign on it saying Vintage Cave. And you go in, and the guy had brought bricks from New England, so all the way over on the east coast of America, all the way to Hawaii, and then it's just all brickwork inside. So it's just like these tunnels. Amazing artwork, like fantastic drinks. They had the chef from who used to be in the French Laundry in Napa Valley. He was the chef there, so the food was just unbelievable. But private members bar, just super exclusive. Lucky enough to get in there. Flatiron Room, you guys have probably been there.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to go in there. That's just unbelievable. The amount of whiskey they have in there. You know, the whole atmosphere as well. You go in there when it's a banging night, it's just busy. They've got a band on, and you know, it's usually like some live jazz or something like that, and it's just an amazing place. So yeah, in the US, that would be the ones that I'd go for. I think also I put in, coming closer to home, Black Rock Whisky Bar down in London. I think the boys, you know, Tristan and Tom, do an amazing job of promoting whiskey in a different way. That table with the aging of the whiskey and right in the middle of it, that's so cool.
I agree, and that's exactly what whiskey needs to move away from as well. You know, I think we all grew up, and it's quite interesting how we're all choosing quite lively venues as well. You know, the music playing. You know, we probably grew up when it was just quiet and still time and a bit sort of serious whiskey. I think, you know, the bars like Black Rock, you know, they're talking about, and you know, from a flavor point of view, as opposed to historical or, you know, geography. It's they're talking about flavor, which I think no one was doing really. But and that's so important.
It changes it though, doesn't it? It goes from that drink that is either for you on your own, that reflection kind of malt moment, or that bonding moment where it's one-on-one and you're toasting a wedding or a birthday or a funeral. You know, whiskey's always going to be involved in those kind of more sedate situations. And I think a lot of people kind of always think of whiskey when they think about things like that. These high tempo places like Zuma, like 7 Grand. I remember being in 7 Grand, the bar was full. It was all different types of ages. It was a real mix of boys and girls. There was a live band on in the corner. It was a Tuesday night. Place was bouncing. There was old fashions, whiskey sours flying around. It was just like, that's just not the impression that you would have had 10 years ago of what Scotch is all about. But it definitely is, I think, a really important thing kind of moving forward, you know, that sociable conviviality of what it can be. And it's really exciting because as you go around the world and seeing it mixed in this way, I always think Scotland's the worst place sometimes to enjoy whiskey because you don't get to see it in everything it can be. You go to China, it's whiskey and green tea in nightclubs. You go to Puerto Rico, it's coconut water and whiskey. Brazil, it's passion fruit and whiskey. You know, there's so many different ways whiskey's enjoyed around the world. And in Scotland, I always remember my dad or my granddad, I can't remember who it was, saying, the only thing, son, that you should put in a whiskey is another whiskey. And it's like, oh man, come on, what's these rules all about? Let's play with this stuff, you know?
Absolutely. It was definitely much more sedate. And as you said, around the world, it's more celebratory whiskey. But we just cry into our whiskey usually and just don't just moan when people try to have fun with it. I remember my dad actually threw someone out the pub for laughing. And then I don't think he got barred, but he just got, just a couple of days in the sin bin.
Guess the whiskey, 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 guess the whiskey.
All right, so well done to all those guys who got the whiskey correct last week. Had a few people message me, including Georgie Crawford. Well done to her. The clues were that the distillery is by a church. Church is only a few hundred meters away from the still house. It's situated in a popular whiskey making region, and it was opened by an Englishman who has a wine background. And the answer was Kilhoman on Islay.
Okay, guess the whiskey. Guys, the next distillery, I'm going to give you 3 clues. It was once upon a time not known as this name. So it was known as something else, and it was known as the Small Isles Distillery. It was closed for 62 years, reopening in 1963. And it's from within the Highlands and Islands whiskey region.
All right, so answers on a postcard. I think we still haven't worked out how people are going to answer it.
So the way that it was working was if you put in a postcard, you write on Daryl Haldane and send it to Scotland, it'll just get to me.
That's right. Because your dad's a postie.
Because my dad's a postie, he'll get it.
Yeah. Your dad's a terrible postie. Don't do that. He's our post. My mum and dad's postie. They've not had mail for 2 years.
I was chatting to someone the other day. I think it was me and Daz that were chatting about this. Remember that time when you tricked me, Barry, to go and try and sell my car to your mate? You and Phil?
No, that wasn't me.
To explain what this motherfucker did, I'll probably cut out motherfucker. It's a little bit strong.
Well, yeah, my mum will be listening to it, so yeah, that'd be good.
So to explain what Barry did, it was the time when we didn't have any kind of, marketplace or internet basically, and you had to put a for sale sign on your car. So I was driving around with this for sale sign, and my number and all this stuff. So I get a phone call and it's this guy saying like, oh, I'm interested in buying your car, but I don't have any transportation. So can you bring it round at this, like I think it was a Sunday, at 4 o'clock or something stupid like that. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. I'll come round. So I go around, knock on this door, and this lady answers the door. And I say, oh, I can't remember his name, but is Chris there? He's interested in buying my car. And she's like, no, Chris hasn't lived here for like 10 years. Turns out it was Barry putting on a voice, calling me up, sent me round to his mate's house that he went to school with or something, right?
Mm. I knew the address basically, and that's the only address that could spring to mind. But I was honing my different, my language skills really, and it was just seeing what accents I could do, and that was you were an unfortunate guinea pig in that process. But it was a nice, it was a good car. You never know. I knew he could drive. He did have a license, so basically I was trying to help you out, Mitch. So you are welcome. You sold it in the end, didn't you?
Yeah, not to your mate though.
Well, he must have told his mate. So yeah.
So worst experiences. Who wants to take this? Anyone had any really bad experiences in whiskey bars or cocktail bars?
I've let myself down a couple of times, and my dignity is probably still in a few places, and hidden under a bar stool or in a corner somewhere. So my first trip to Japan was an interesting one, and I was going out there and to meet up with all these whiskey enthusiasts and do all the tastings for whiskey clubs and bartender clubs and stuff like that. So we go to this customer of ours. I was working for Highland Park, and this guy was really, really excited to see us, and he had all these bottle keeps, these lockers that have got little padlocks on them. People keep their bottles in, and then whenever they go back, they can just, pick their bottle up and go for it. So all of their bottle keeps are full of Highland Parks. This guy's a massive enthusiast, all sorts of bottles and stuff. So I was brilliant. I was like, mate, no, great. Of course, we'll go there. We'll sit down. And what I didn't know is that he wanted to give me the honor of opening the karaoke for the evening. So as I walk in, he's like, quick, come. So we go to the table, we sit down, and a bottle of Highland Park arrives, and we have a couple of drams, and he's like, right, microphone in my hand. He's like, you start. And he says, what do you like to sing? And I says, I don't know. And he said, well, you choose something. I was like, right, no problem. Elton John, Sacrifice. Have you got that? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. He's like, but I do have an Elton John song. And I said, well, look, just put that on. That'll be fine. I'm sure the words will come to me. He's like, no, it's okay. I've got the screen. I was like, brilliant. So we go in front of the screen. Everyone's like, yeah, Mr. Highland Park's going to kick the karaoke off tonight. So I'm standing in front of the screen, and Circle of Life comes on, but it's like a Japanese version. It's like ding, 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 ding. Much more delicate than I was expecting. So I go for it, right? I'm all in. I've had a couple of drams. I'm right up for it. And I start, and the guy, I could see the guy, he's like, oh, no. And I'm kind of looking at him going, he's not pleased with my performance at all. And in Scotland, of course, it's good to be shite at karaoke. You don't want anyone that's a good singer, because all of it, they're show-offs, right? That's that. You don't want that. You need to be bad. I'm being as bad as I normally am at karaoke. After 30 seconds, he cuts me off. He says, not very good. That was not very good. I said, oh, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't mean to let you down. So I get shuffled back to my table, and I just get back on the whiskies. I don't really think anything of it, because I've got no shame, sadly. So anyway, that happens. And the guy that was looking after me is a guy called Kenji Hori, right? And Kenji Hori actually now works for Bruichladdich over in Japan. So I go out with him after this, and I don't really think about it. And he sort of pulls me aside, and he's like, earlier on when you were singing that Circle of Life song, it wasn't very good. And I says, no, but in Scotland it's okay. No one cares. And he's like, well, in Japan it really matters. And I was like, really? And he says, yeah, everybody has 3 songs. So we go to the next karaoke bar, and he stands up and he does Neil Diamond, Forever in Blue Jeans. Kenji's English was not the best, right? I mean, not good at all. But he could sing in English unbelievably well. He sings Forever in Blue Jeans. Honestly, I had a lump in my throat. It was so lovely. The boy, he could sing it pitch perfect. So I'm sort of sitting there going, no wonder I got kicked off the karaoke. Like, it's so ever since then, I've been working on my 3 songs for that opportune moment when I get kicked into the karaoke back in Japan, but it's never happened since, sadly.
Well, until this moment, here we go. So song
here
number 1, Daryl, here we go. I'll play the track. What is this going to be,
It's
Daryl?
2 hearts living, baby.
Oh, dear. It's so true, though. I was so blessed to go to Japan with Tom Nicol. And so Tom had been a distiller. He first of all worked in whiskey distilleries for about 30 years. Then he was the Tanqueray master distiller. And we were in Japan, exactly the same thing. We were in a karaoke bar, and I think Tom tried to sing Mustang Sally or something, and terrible. And we actually got booted out, off and out, and it was just they hated it, and rightly so. But it's so that's a bit of a tip, isn't it? Enjoy the whiskey. Don't get carried away with the karaoke when in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was in LA, Koreatown was an area that we were focusing a lot on. So I had to do a lot of stuff in the karaoke bars there. Man, it got crazy. It got crazy really quickly. Well, I remember one of the days in particular, I think we did like 3 or 4 karaoke bars in one night. And the next day I had to drive from LA up to Santa Barbara, which is normally about a 2-hour drive. It took me about 7 hours. I was just so hungover. At one point I found a beach, and I was just lying on the beach, and I think it was Ventura, which is like halfway up between LA and Santa Barbara. And I just had to lie on the beach, passed out, woke up to a homeless guy actually like kicking me to make sure I was all right. I looked that bad.
Only good singing in bars works, I think. And I think, to your point, I agree with you, Daryl, as well. If someone's all right at it, or they're above all right. It's just a bit awkward, isn't it? It's just a bit too, you've got to be either terrible or incredible at karaoke, or just don't do it.
All right, Baz. So let's move a little bit away from bars and let's talk about some whiskey cocktails, because you've got the drinks drop, which is going amazingly well. Website looks fantastic. You sent me some cocktails recently, which I enjoyed. What have you been making up whiskey related with cocktails recently? Anything interesting?
Yeah, so when the drinks drop, it's we have to stabilize the cocktail. So we can't really have anything perishable in the cocktail. So we focus on things like old fashions, Negroni style drinks, martinis, drinks that could be served up. But one thing that we actually found out within our pouches is we could actually heat the drinks up. So you obviously go in the freezer to get your martini down to perfect temperature, but you just put in a pan of water and it can make a beautiful whiskey cocktail. So we had some crackers on, some of them on the list for Christmas, but the one that the top selling drink is a Talisker Seaside Old Fashioned. So yeah, just a little bit of vinegar and some Talisker, a little bit of honey in there as well, and some salt, and it just a beautiful. It just works so well, and I think Jason, the Talisker brand ambassador, says reminds him of drinking a Talisker with some chips and vinegar and salt, just on the banks of Skye, and it's just a beautiful drink. And that's I think what we find as well is people buy what they know, so they know what an old fashioned is going to be. They know what Talisker is. So I think that's the thing. People can overcomplicate cocktails sometimes as well and try and make them not very accessible to consumers. But that just does exactly what it says on the tin, really. It's got that maritime feel. So that's a. Did you try that one, Mitch?
Yeah, that was one that was in my pack, which I really enjoyed. But let's talk about the drinks drop. How did you get involved in that? How did that all come about?
Well, we've got a distribution company that obviously when the first COVID bout hit the start of last year, we sell to bars. We sell directly to bars products that we import from all around the world, and we've got a team together that were doing that. So we were like, okay, this is not great for us, but instead of getting angry, instead of getting just switching on Netflix and enjoying the furlough, we wanted to do something that was I don't know, just to keep ourselves busy. That was the thing, to keep ourselves active, because I think from us it's a big sociable job that we do. You're speaking to lots and lots of people every day. Then to go into isolation and not have a purpose, I was really worried about. Plus we wanted to keep the communication going with the bars, and we wanted to make so it wasn't a case of when they shut down for 3 months then, hi, remember me. So we came up with an idea. Just obviously they would create a cocktail recipe, we would replicate it and distribute it around the UK. And we were using out of work bartenders to facilitate this, to develop the drinks, but then also to deliver them on bikes around central London and Manchester. So great for their well-being, giving them a purpose, and also they were earning some cash as well. And it just grew and grew and grew, the popularity. We've still got some of the same customers from week one, now a year and a half on later. And it's fascinating to see this demand for this ready to consume element around drinks. And I think the other benefit to it as well, say for example, you do want a Negroni, you're going to have to buy 3 bottles of booze, just for one drink. That's going to cost you 60, 70 pounds, but we do everything for you. It's all luxury products that we use and mix it all together perfectly. All you need to do is just pour and enjoy. So yeah. It's here to last as well. So it's not just for a pandemic. We're still, the bars are starting to open up again. We've still got our customers, and for me myself, I appreciate it. If you've got people back at your house or people around for dinner, you can focus on the cooking, and the drinks are ready to go, and they're still going to be a showstopper. So yeah, you've tried them as well.
I think it's interesting. It's a good point. You say it's here to stay, because Daz and I were talking about virtual whiskey festivals, and is that going to stay in virtual tastings? And I think all this stuff that we've experienced over the last year or so is definitely here to stay. People are maybe gonna, not do as many Zoom calls and Zoom tastings because they can now go out to the pub and socialize. But I think it's still going to be around, and I definitely think what you're doing, Barrie's gonna stay around. It is a great product, man. I really like the cocktails and the whole concept of it, and the website's beautiful as well.
We've got a couple of international bars coming on board as well. So again, probably people still can't travel. You can taste what a bar in Mexico City is, what they've created, and that's the wonder of this industry we're in. We can replicate these flavors, and even now with there's a few multi-sensorial elements that we're going to be adding. We've done 3D glasses, so I actually took you into the bar last year. But again, this is we can play around with smells, with sounds. Each cocktail comes with its own playlist and so on, and yeah, I think it's fascinating what you can do, and what everyone has learned how to do over this lockdown as well. Everyone knows how to order from DPD. I'm sure everyone's just used to that now. And
so, someone's on the website right now. What do you recommend them getting? Give us a couple of the top cocktails.
Well, I would keeping it whiskey and keeping it to some of the best whiskey bars in the world. We've got one on from the Gate in Glasgow. The Carlton Club it's actually using Neon, so they're using their botanical spirit. So it's a pre-aged spirit that's distilled with botanicals and wild botanicals from the west of Scotland, and it's called the Carlton Club. So it's a big fruity, it's a twist on a sort of clover club. That is fantastic if you get to try that. And something completely different, Don's Peach Cooler. So it's mezcal. It's like a mezcal peach iced tea, and when the sun is shining, which it looks like it is shining in Scotland today, that's the two I would quaff tonight.
Nice.
I'm gonna have a wee look at the lemon and peach old fashioned. That sounds brilliant. That sounds really, really good. I've had a few of these over the last year, and they have been great. And it's a brilliant way to, like you say, you want your favorite bars around the UK or even around the world, because you had drinks from Mexico and stuff like that last year as well. If you can get you're missing those things, and get them in your house, you can do a couple of very simple steps, and then you can go for it. You can have a couple of really, really nice cocktails, really well made. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the Drink Strop, mate. It's been class, but that one sounds particularly good.
Thanks for listening to three Scottish guys chatting a load of pish about drinking whiskey and bars. If that sentence made you feel like you've just wasted about 30 odd minutes of your life, then you're probably right. But we do appreciate you jumping on to listen to what we're talking about.
No, definitely. It's great to have Baz on here as our first guest as well. Really, really good to catch up. Baz, I hope it wasn't too painful for you, pal.
No, and likewise. It's good to see you guys. Good to chat to you guys, actually. And we can't see each other on a podcast.
Mate. Soon. I'm actually planning a London trip in July, so
I'm busy, and so yeah, maybe catch up soon.
All right, guys, so check out our next episode where we're going to be talking about whiskey and movies. We'll maybe have another guest on, because I think that worked out not too bad, right? I mean, Baz didn't fuck it all up for us. So what do you think, Daz?
Yeah, I think that was acceptable. A good, solid 6 out of 10 performance, Baz. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. And as you know, I can do accents as well. So if you want me to come back next week and pretend to be Barry Norman or whatever, if you're doing whiskey and movies, I'm your man.
John Candy.
John.
No, Baz, thank you very much for joining us. And thanks, guys, for listening. Check it out next week. And we'll see you guys soon.
See you all soon. Slange.